We're back for Meet the Expert. This is fantastic. Once a month, you get free training from the recruiting gym. We bring in experts, people that are real key people in their field that have got a topic they want to share with you. You get half an hour of training and then 15 minutes of Q&A. So feel free to put any questions in the chat. Let's find out our expert for this month. Katherine, Jennick, hello, how are you?
Hello, it's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. So, Katherine, give us a little intro as to who you are and what you do.
So I wear many hats, as I think lots of people do these days. But my day job, if you like, is I'm a career coach for young people specifically. So I go into secondary schools in Nottingham. I have worked with young adults in the past, but currently just working with young people, help them with those sort of transition years of planning for the future. But I'm also the creator of an educational resource called What's Your Strength, which I will tell people a little bit about during today's talk. But yes, that's sort of me in a nutshell. There's more, but I'll just leave it at that, I think, for now.
So this is what grabbed my attention. The What's Your Strength? One straight away, you're like, oh yeah, what is my strength? And prompting you to think from that point of view. I just wish there was someone like you around when we had our careers advisors. They didn't advise very much, did they? You filled out a questionnaire and it came back. I think I was meant to be a journalist. And that was about it, really. There wasn't much discussion at all. Has it changed?
It is transformed. In fact, I was doing some teacher training just yesterday, actually, and having a show of hands of people's horrific stories of terrible career guidance in the 80s. And I'm thankful that it's changed. It's irrecognisable to what it used to be. And actually, it's no longer talking about jobs. It's about helping people to understand themselves. That's the way I describe it to young people, is I'm not here to tell you about jobs. I'm here to help you understand yourself. So by discovering things about themselves, whether it be their strengths or their values or what they're motivated by, then they can navigate their own career journey successfully and make really positive choices. So it's all about self-awareness as much as the actual jobs themselves.
Now, we were talking about this on Friday. We do ask the coach every fortnight as well, who've been on that. So this is where you get coaches together asking questions. And people were talking, because we're all about recruitment, and people were talking about breaking it down, 120s, 180s, 360 recruitment consultants. And it boiled down to what's your strength. So that's why I wanted to bring you in here, because we've got a lot of people, over 100,000 just in the UK here, people working in the recruitment industry, not necessarily playing to their strengths. And that makes it even more stressful. So we want to be in that situation. So for all you recruiters out there, whether you're in-house or your agency, Katherine's going to take us through a presentation now so that we can actually get some understanding and some thought behind this as to how to work out what's your strength. There'll be questions afterwards. If you want to share, get your presentation up, Katherine, that'd be great. Well,
I'll do that now.
Those that are joining us, thank you. Do say hello. We're a friendly lot, and we'd love to hear from you. Also, then, if you've got any questions, please put them in the chat. And I know there's a little bit of interaction as well as we go through. So stick those in the chat, and then we'll be coming back after Katherine's presentation to answer your questions and talk a little bit more on this topic. I'm going to leave you to it.
Fantastic. So I'm hoping that everything's working. For those of you who don't know, we had a bit of a disaster the last time I tried to come on Crowdcast and it all failed. So I'm hoping that it's all now good. Working. Fantastic. Brilliant. Brilliant. So obviously I've introduced myself. I am a career coach and the creator of What's Your Strength, which I'll come to in a little while. But really what today is all about is introducing this concept of a strength-based approach and just how powerful and impactful it can be for you and in your roles as recruiters, because it really does empower people to recognise their own brilliance and realise what they've got within themselves already. Now, it has been arguably one of the two of the most challenging years for most of us in our lives, and I would say it's more important than ever before to recognise our achievements, to celebrate our successes, and to build our self-esteem during obviously the challenging times we're living through at the moment. So hopefully today is going to fill you all with a bit of positivity. You are going to need pen and paper. So if you haven't got any already, just go and grab some. And also you'll need your mobile phone as well. So if that's not handy, just go and grab that. Now, as recruiters, I'm pretty sure that a lot of you spend time thinking about other people's skill set, other people's skills and qualities. But when was the last time you actually just stopped and reflected on your own strengths? I think it's so important that we practice what we preach. I know it's a slightly different role, career coach recruitment, but there's a lot of overlap. And I think it's really important, if we're encouraging other people to think about their strengths, that we actually become comfortable thinking about our own. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So I have got about three of my quick activities, some of my favorite tools that I use in my practice week in, week out, and just some strategies to help you not only recognize the strengths that you've got, but start to feel comfortable celebrating them and sharing them with other people. So before we come on to the actual activities themselves, I just want to start off with actually what we mean by strengths, because different words are often bandied around. So everything from natural abilities, personal qualities, character traits, talents, skills, and skills are sometimes separated out into subcategories of essential skills, soft skills, learned skills. And it can be easy to sort of get bogged down by the actual vocabulary. And well, which is it? Is it a skill? Is it a talent? Is it an ability? Now, I don't want to get bogged down on the specific words. What I'd rather think about today is why it's important. So why it's important that we know about our strengths, but also why it's important that we're able to articulate them and feel comfortable talking about them to other people. So in terms of why it is important to talk about our strengths and to understand them. So first of all, it raises our self-awareness. I said that at the start about the role I play with young people. And actually, learning to understand ourselves well, including what our strengths are, really helps us to understand ourselves and grow as a person. I often say to young people, if you're going to learn one thing in your life, it's to learn about yourself. You're going to be with yourself every day of your life. So what better thing to know about and to understand really deeply. So why else is it important? It's important because it helps to build our self-esteem, our confidence, and our motivation, and really embrace who we are in a positive way. I see for myself every week when I support young people with their strengths, just how it really is incredible things can happen when we fill ourselves with messages that feed our self-belief. And you can literally see somebody grow in confidence in front of your eyes. They stand taller, their heads held higher, and they walk out of the room with their chest puffed out. So it's so important because it can really help to build our self-esteem. But work-wise, it can really help us gain a clarity of direction as well. By recognizing what our career management skills are, it can help us navigate our careers in this ever-changing landscape of the world of work that we're in now. It's irrecognizable from the career ladder of many years ago. There's so many twists and turns, and that I don't know if any of you have read this book, Squiggly Career. I'd recommend it if you haven't. But careers are unpredictable now, and you go in lots of different directions. So knowing what your strengths are can really help navigate those twists and turns. And last of all, again, sort of work-wise, it can help you be happy and successful at work. Like Angela inferred a moment ago, when we play to our strengths in the workplace, we can thrive. When you see people in the workplace who are absolutely top of their game, and they're often happy in what they're doing because they're good at what they're doing, they're playing to their strengths. So it's really, really important. Now, it's not always easy. So we know it's important, but it can be quite tricky. And actually, when people are asked about their strengths, it can evoke quite a strong reaction from some people. Now, you often find people feeling like this. They just don't know what their strengths are. They're full of self-doubt. Maybe they've never really had to even think about it before, so they just don't know. Equally, you have then people who just find it exceptionally cringy, and you can almost feel their toes curling when they're asked that question, what are your strengths? I know it's a bit of a stereotype, but us Brits, and I know it's probably a worldwide audience, but any Brits online today, it is a stereotype, but actually we're not very good at celebrating our successes. We shy away from it. We just don't like talking about it. We don't want to be seen to be blowing our own trumpet, but why not? Why not shout about how amazing we are? It benefits everybody if everybody's playing to their strengths. And last of all, you have people who maybe know what their strengths are, but perhaps they find it difficult to articulate it, whether that putting it in writing or putting it into words. Now, helping people to discover their own unique strengths is a real passion of mine. It always has been for the 20 years I've worked with young people particularly, but like I said, some adults as well. And it definitely came from a core of wanting to help young people recognise their strengths. But what I've found really fascinating, particularly over the last couple of years when I've reached out and had a networked with more adults, is it's a human thing that we sometimes struggle to recognise our strengths. It's not just young people, what I first thought. Actually, a lot of adults are saying, actually, I find that really tricky as well. And that's why I created an alternative pack of What's Your Strength cards for adults, as well as a pack for teenagers, which is what the original resource was all about. So when it comes to identifying our strengths, it can be tricky, like we've said. And actually, sometimes we need a bit of a helping hand. And seeking feedback from other people that we know and trust and love can be a really good place to start. So that's actually what we're going to start with as my first activity today. And it is my own positive version of the Michael McIntyre's Send to All. So for those of you that don't know, Michael McIntyre is a comedian. Like him or loathe him, he has a show, and he one of the sort of the parts of his show is there's a celebrity in the audience, and he writes quite an incriminating text message, and then sends it to the entire address book of that celebrity to see if they get replies. Now, this is my own positive version, and I'm going to ask you to send these questions to some people you know, to see what responses that we get. Hopefully, you might get some responses by the end of today's session. So what I'd like you to do is, if you've got your mobile phone handy, I want you to take a photograph of this screen. And I want you to send it to somebody. Perhaps it'll be your best friend, someone in your family. Maybe you've got a WhatsApp group that you could send it to try and get several responses. Maybe take a screenshot, stick it on Facebook. Now, if you are one of those people that find talking about strengths quite cringy and quite difficult, blame me if this feels a bit awkward. So just on your message, say, I'm in a workshop. I've been asked to find out the answers to these questions. So put the onus on me. And I'm just going to give you a moment to do that. So take your picture, take your screenshot and send it off. And we're going to come back to this in about 20 minutes. Hopefully some of you will have some replies, because it would be lovely to see if some of you have. I did do this on a webinar recently, and we had some great things. Even within sort of 5 or 10 minutes, we had some things flooding back, which was fantastic. And actually, when I did it myself, I've kept the replies in my phone because they make me smile so much and really help me see what other people thought about me. And actually, I do look at them from time to time when I'm having a bit of a low day, maybe I need a little bit of a lift, and they just inspire me to keep going and remind me of, the strengths that I've got. So I use this activity a lot with young people, because, like we've said, thinking about our own strengths can be really tricky. We overlook our own strengths so much because they're just part of who we are. So we don't value them because we just don't recognize them because it's just part of our everyday life. So by asking other people, the people that we know and we love and we trust, it can give us a completely different perspective and an insight into what other people see. Because I'm sure if I was to ask you to tell me about your best friend's strengths, you could probably list me several. So actually by asking other people, hopefully you'll get that insight back from them. So we're going to come back to that. Hopefully you've all definitely had a chance by now to send that off. So we'll come back to that. So we're going to move on to our second activity for the workshop. And for this, you are going to need pen and paper. So you can see there that the paper I've just folded into 3. So here's one I made earlier. I sound like I'm on Blue Peter, but here is my little piece of paper. And it doesn't matter how well, whether it's neat or whether it's even, nobody's going to see this apart from you. So all I want you to do to start with is literally just fold your piece of paper into 3 so it looks like the piece of paper on the screen. And what I want you to do to start with is I want you to cast your mind back about a year. So it's been a tricky year, as we've already said. It's been challenging for all of us for all sorts of reasons. But I want us to think back at what we've achieved over the last year. And in the first column, so the column on the left-hand side, I want you could draw an image or you could write it. It's entirely up to you. So I want you to draw or write something that you have achieved this year. Something perhaps you couldn't do a year ago that you can do now. So when I've done this before, people have done everything from being able to finally do the crow position in yoga or a recipe they've mastered. Perhaps it's something like you've got a new job over the last year. I'll show you the example on mine. So I just hold this up to the screen. So hopefully you can see that. I've just drawn a little image of myself doing a PowerPoint presentation, because I learned this year you can record yourself doing it and then send it off to people as a training material, which I had no idea about. So I've managed to achieve that this year. So don't worry about what it is. Just think about something you have achieved this year. Something perhaps you couldn't do a year ago, but you can now. Another one for me would be to use Crowdcast. I've successfully done it today, so I'm going to give myself a pat on the back for achieving that today. So left-hand side, a picture or a short piece of writing about something you have achieved over the past year, roughly. So I'll just give you a moment to do that. I'm just going to take a sip of water and let you write something down. Okay, so moving into our middle column now. What I'd like you to do is think about what you did to achieve that and record ideas. Just some bullet points is fine. So perhaps to achieve that thing, you had to practice over and over again and persevere. Perhaps it was something you had to research to find out how to do it. Perhaps you had to show lots of problem-solving skills to find a solution. What did you have to do to achieve that? And again, I'll show you my example. So in my middle column, I had to follow instructions. I had to not panic with the tech. I had to give it a go, practice and research. So just give yourself a few little bullet points of what you did to achieve that particular thing. Again, don't worry about how messy it is or whether your spelling's right. Nobody's going to see this apart from you. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to write a few things down, which takes us through to that final column. Now, I want you to just take a moment to actually look at what you've put down so far and reflect on what you can learn about yourself from that process. And you're going to give yourself a positive affirmation. Now, so for those of you who do any yoga or meditation, you might be familiar with this term, but it's basically a positive statement that you can say to yourself. You can repeat to yourself that you can do it, that you can achieve things, to remind yourself. So I want you to think about what you've got in front of you and think about something you can say to yourself. looking at that achievement. Now, it could be as simple as a statement like, I can do it. Or it could be several things. So again, I'll give you my example. So I have courage, I can persevere, and I'm always learning. So I'll show you my finished result. Here's one I made earlier. You can see those 3 positive affirmations on that right-hand side. Now, it is so important to reflect backwards sometimes. We're in a world where we're rushing forwards all the time. It's a target we need to meet. It's a goal we need to achieve. It's all forwards, which is great. But it's so important that sometimes we just pause, just reflect backwards, and actually look at how far we've come and what we've achieved along the way. Because actually, we've all done it. We've all had life challenges. We've all had things we've achieved. We're all awesome. We just need to stop and recognize it for ourselves sometimes. And we do need to remind ourselves. And it'd be nice for you to somewhere record it. I'll give you an example of something actually I was blue tacked on my desk that my daughter did for me a few weeks ago. I was really nervous about something I was doing at work. And I opened up my laptop in the morning and she'd written this little post-it note, which I've laminated because I love it so much. And it just says, you can do hard things. And it's taken from this book, Untamed, which is another book recommendation for you. Absolutely fantastic. So my little laminated reminder, you can do hard things, is a positive affirmation for myself. And I looked at it this morning because I knew I'd be a bit nervous about today. So I did look at it and I've repeated it to myself. I've given myself that positive affirmation. You can do hard things. You can do it. And it's amazing when you tell yourself that you can do it, you do start to believe it. So what might you do with your positive statements now? Now, I loved this example that a young person did. They literally made themselves a positivity mirror. So every time she looks in the mirror, she is looking at this positive reflection of herself, of statements, positive affirmations, to remind herself that she can do it. And I think this is especially important when we're facing a new challenge, maybe something that's a bit tricky. Maybe we're having to stretch our comfort zones, we're starting a new job, that sort of situation. To remind yourself that you can do it. You've been there before, you've struggled before, you've had to be a beginner before, but you've done it, you persevered and you've achieved it. So you will again. So it's so important to, in whichever way you find comfortable, whether it's on a mirror, whether it's a post-it note on your fridge, somewhere on a note in your phone, remind yourself of the awesome person that you are. Now, the activity I just got you to do was reflecting over a year. And hopefully you've all got a selection of positive things to reflect upon. Now, imagine if we looked back at your whole life experience, the rich life that you've led, and all the transferable skills that you will have developed from all of those different experiences and all of those different activities. Now, that was my goal when I was creating What's Your Strength. So you can see here, the resource itself is a pack of cards. It is a physical pack of cards, as you can see. Now, obviously, you don't have the cards in front of you. But what I'm going to do is introduce you to the concept behind the cards. So even if you don't have them, you can apply the method to your own practice and hopefully to use in your work to support the people that you're helping in your recruitment. So the idea behind What's Your Strength is that it helps people to translate what they do in their lives, the activities, their experiences, and translate that into the skills and qualities that they have. Now, I designed it specifically to empower people. Rather than telling somebody what they're good at, they are figuring that out for themselves. They are empowered to reflect, just like we've been doing a moment ago, reflecting on their own lives, going on a journey of self-discovery, if you like, and learning about themselves and recognizing the value in every life experience that they've had. Because actually some of our life experiences are challenging. There's no getting away from it. But actually, when we look at some of those challenging situations, they are what have helped us to develop some of our strengths. So something positive can come out of something quite challenging. Now, the theory behind the What's Your Strength tool does come from something called the strength-based approach, which is embedded within positive psychology, which is a whole branch of psychology in itself. But in its absolutely simplest form, what a strength-based approach is it's starting from the starting point of what somebody can do rather than what they can't. So shifting that focus onto what you can do and then building from there. Now, you can see there, it's a whole pack of cards. There's 36 in total. Now, I haven't got time to obviously show you them all. So I've picked 3 just at random to give you an idea today. Now, each of the activities that are on the cards all have a whole series, a whole set of transferable skills, which I'll show you in a moment when I turn the cards over. Now, it can be really difficult, as we've said, to recognise the skills we've got, especially if they are associated to our everyday lives. We just don't see them as skills, and that middle card is a classic example of this. Now, how often do we hear people, particularly maybe people that are returning to work after having children, and they just have lost their sense of self-worth? They can't recognise their strengths. They don't value the skills that they've had in their caring parental responsibilities. So they're returning to the workplace and, well, what skills do I have? I've just been at home. I'm just a mum. And it's devastating when you hear people saying things like that, because they're just not recognizing the value in their experiences. So this tool is designed to either be your own sort of self-development tool, or for myself as a career coach, or for you guys as recruiters to empower the clients that you might be working with. Now, in smaller webinars, I would have got you into breakout rooms to discuss these in more detail, but I haven't been able to do that today. So I'm going to just show you the cards, the 3 cards that I'm going to give you as an example. So if we start off with the first one then, so helping to organise an event. Now, there's a lot more to organising an event than just organisational skills, which we'll see in a moment. Now, this card can be any type of event. Yes, it might be a work-based event where you've organised a huge conference with multiple people, or perhaps actually you're the person at home who always arranges the family Christmas party. Every time there's a family get together, every time you're going to go on holiday, you're the person that organises it. So when we turn the card over, you can see the vast range of skills and qualities that means that you have. It's more, yes, organisation is there, but there's a lot more to it than that. Perhaps there's a whole team of people organising this event. So you've had to show leadership, you've had to show teamwork. Perhaps there's been a cost involved, so you've had to budget or allocate resources. Normally, when you're organising events, something will go wrong along the way. So you've had to problem solve and use your initiative to find a solution. You know, and these are the sorts of words that are fantastic to put on things like a CV, or if you're telling a story for a competency-based question in an interview, what better story to have, one that is one from your own life that you can really wax lyrical about and really talk about, because it's something that you've experienced, whether it's from home or whether it's from a work-based example. So moving on to that next one, the raising a family. Now, the list here is endless. Anybody online today who does have a family, whatever that family setup is, there are so many skills and qualities involved in that. Now, you can see here, this is just a selection. By no means is this an exhaustive list. And actually, when I use What's Your Strength cards, when people come up with more strengths that aren't on the card, I absolutely love that, because it really shows that depth of self-awareness, and they're starting to kind of really recognize the strengths that they've got rather than just going with what's on the card. So it's more of us almost like a conversation starter. They see some of them and then more words start to pour out of them, which is a magical thing to witness. So the last sample card that I've got here is one that is often an overlooked experience. Sometimes people will be, oh, well, I worked abroad just because my partner's job changed, so I just went with them. But actually, you will have had to have developed an awful lot of strengths if you have worked or lived abroad. Now, obviously, if it's a country that speaks a different language, you've got the linguistic skills or language skills. But actually, no matter where it is, you've had to adapt to a new culture. Show such resilience, because it can be such a tricky thing to do. And actually, just that willingness to embrace change is such a strength that's worth celebrating. So hopefully, I mean, that has been a whistle-stop tour of What's Your Strength, but hopefully you've got the idea of it. So you know what it's about, and you might be able to use the concept of starting with, so if somebody says, what's your strength? And your mind goes blank, turn it on its head. Think about an activity first. Think about a life experience first, and then flip that over and uncover the different skills and qualities that are associated to that experience. Now, we're going to go back to how we started today's session. So we're just coming towards the end, and I want to return to our very first activity, which was our centre wall. Now, hopefully, some of you will have had some replies by now. If you have, and you feel comfortable sharing them, it would be absolutely wonderful if you were to pop some of your responses in the chat box. Now, I can't see the chat box at the moment, but I'll be coming, when I come out of my presentation, I'll be able to see it to join the conversation. So if you have got some replies, please do, if you feel comfortable, pop those in the chat box. For those of you who haven't got any replies yet, I really do hope that you get some later on in the day, because it really does just, fill you with joy when you hear other people's perspective on what they see and what they love about you and what strengths that they feel that you've got. So please do pop in the chat box if you want to. Now, that sort of is bringing me to a close, but just sort of reflecting on the session itself. The three things that we've looked at today are all strength-based approaches, slightly different, but they're all coming from that starting point of looking at strengths. So the centre wall activity is other people's perspectives. It's about your strengths, but it's other people's perspectives on those. The paper folding exercise was the importance of self-reflection and looking back at past achievements and reminding ourselves of the achievements that we have made throughout our lives. And then last of all, the What's Your Strength activity, it's the idea of translation. So translating what we do in our lives into what we're good at. So hopefully it's given you some food for thought, and perhaps you might want to introduce some of these sorts of activities or strategies in your own practice for your own self-development. And I know lots of people have started doing this with their families, which is a lovely thing as well, to get those positive strength conversations going on between family and friends. So there is one last tip I'm going to leave you with today, a bit of an action point, I suppose, and it is something I picked up on from two incredible women that I follow on LinkedIn. So I am pretty sure that most of you on this online today will have an abundance of these to-do lists, infamous to-do lists. Whether we love them or loathe them, we all have them, and they always seem to be endless, and you never really have the satisfaction of finishing it all, because it just continues to grow, and that can be quite demoralizing sometimes. So what I'm going to suggest is that, as well as a to-do list, you also have one of these, a to-do list, a list of things to celebrate your achievements. I do have this. I literally have them in a pad that's called, it just says you've got this. So anytime that I do something that I'm proud of, or an achievement, or I hear a nice message, some feedback that makes me smile, I will put it in there. So I have my to-do list, a record of achievements, messages, awards. So today, perhaps you could create your own to-do list, perhaps looking at reflecting on the activities we've done, perhaps some of the replies that you got from friends and family. Record them, put them on your to-do list. It is a great way of tackling that imposter that we all have from time to time. So when that voice is starting to creep in saying you're not good enough, you look at your to-do list, whether it's something you do on a daily basis, a weekly basis, or just periodically, and look back and create yourself a to-do list. It is a fantastic strategy to kick the imposter syndrome to the curb. So that brings me to a close today. Here are all my contact details. I could talk about this all day long. If you would like to talk to me about it further, please get in touch. Obviously, you've got all my details there. LinkedIn, I use a lot. So that is one of the best places to connect with me. But I'm going to come out of a presentation now so I can actually talk to you all through the chat box. But thank you so much for listening, and I'm going to hand over to Angela. I just stopped my share.
That's fantastic. I actually laughed out loud when the ta-da came up. I've not seen that before, and it just made me giggle straight away. So what a lovely activity to do, to just, and again, you're given permission. It's part of an exercise. I sent it to a group on my WhatsApp, which is for Recruiter Insider. So I thought, well, that's a bit interesting. Let's get their viewpoint, because there are a bunch of senior directors. It's of our board group for a company that's based in Melbourne, and actually the owner of the company came back, and his comment, and someone else wrote it at the same time as well, was understanding him. So that was one of my greatest strengths, because he's an interesting character, let's just put it that way. And I got to work with him and just thought his product was amazing, so took that further. But they're saying probably greatest accomplishment and just strength is being able to work with someone else and understanding their personality and being able to make that a positive thing and working through. I love that. Charlotte, let's have a look at a couple of these that are coming in here. So Charlotte got patient from her other half. So again, that's really helps in a relationship, doesn't it? What were some of yours, Katherine, when you got yours back?
One that seemed to come through a lot was my enthusiasm, and I do try to, I do think that what you put into life you get back, and I do live life with a very I'm aware that there are challenges in the world, but I do always try to reframe things in a positive way where I can, or at least see things as a learning experience, even if things are tricky. And I think that's what other people can see in me. And also for me, in terms of my own successes, it's seeing my children grow up into just wonderful human beings, and taking some benefit from that, knowing that obviously it's my parenting that's helped them grow into the wonderful people that they are. And that was what my mum said was my greatest achievement.
That's lovely. I must admit, my sister and I are very lucky. Our two are only 6 months apart, and both of them in the last 6 months have bought their first house at sort of age 23. And we step back and we look at each other and go, we did all right, didn't we? Yeah. We've done a good job with both of them. They're both very happy, in great relationships, got their houses, great jobs, and that's all you can want, that they're happy, they're safe.
Absolutely.
Fabulous. Well, have you got any questions? I can see we've had more people come in actually in the last 15-20 minutes or so. Whether that's because we normally run this at 11:45 and people are coming in, so apologies. It has been announced for the last month or so that this one was at 11 o'clock. Of course, they're recorded, so when this finishes, it will repeat. It will be on here. This is number 17, so there's 16 others to look at. But if you want to click on the green button, all the recordings are there so that you don't miss anything. That's joining us in the gym. It's free. We do this for free. We bring in experts who share their time for free as well. And this is obviously something, Katherine, that you created over a period of time. I mean, I love the cards and the fact that when you flip them, you've got all of those details. So whether it is an appraisal, doesn't need to be someone looking for a job, does it?
No, absolutely. Because like I said, the original pack was aimed at young people. That was two and a half years ago now that launched. And now that's a recommended resource in schools across the country, and it's been well used all globally actually. But then the adult pack was as a result of adults contacting me saying it's not just young people that find this difficult, and that coincided with COVID, with lots of people being out of work for the first time in a long time. You know, people being made redundant, confidence was rock bottom. And so through lots of market research and focus groups, that was when I put together the pack for adults, because I just think it's something that we're not taught to do. We're not taught to reflect on ourselves, and it's something for some people it comes very naturally, and for others it doesn't. We need to be encouraged to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got the sort of the reserved stiff upper lip British, haven't you, that we don't give a lot away. If we were in America, they probably have been doing this for a long time, because they're very, very good at promoting themselves and saying what they're good at. I know I'm generalizing there, everyone, but certainly from a culture point of view, they're very different to us, and we need to be better at that. So I can see this great for appraisal. So anyone that's here that's got appraisals coming up, whether that's you appraising people or you are the appraisee, great opportunity to get in contact with you and get the cards to then utilize in that scenario. But of course, all our recruiters, we are very recruitment based. They're helping people find new jobs all the time. And legally, we can't be careers advisors, but we can certainly help people to be to identify what's their strength, what's important, and where they can help themselves in those interviews. So as a an interview briefing, this is perfect. Makes it so much easier as well, doesn't it?
Could I just read you a quote actually from somebody who used them during lockdown? So this is in my Tadar book actually. It's all different lovely quotes and stuff that people sent me. So this person said, looking for a job during lockdown has been hard. And after years of successfully working, my self-esteem and confidence were at an all-time low. I was shortlisted for an interview, a virtual one, which was a first for me, so I was very anxious. I used my Watch Your Strength cards for inspiration. I couldn't believe the skills I'd forgotten about. The interview was a huge success, and I got the job.
Oh, love that.
In recruitment terms, it's lovely, actually.
And actually, the online interviews, people might be anxious about, but they're much better for people that struggle, because you've only got a certain amount showing. So if you are tapping your hands or or keeping those, all the fidgety bits can be hidden away. But of course, you can have those cards in front of you. Have some screen around it. That mirror was that got me actually. I don't know. Did I hear your voice cracking a little bit?
Every time I look at that picture, it just it does. I just think it's such a beautiful idea.
Yes. And I did. I hadn't met you at this point, but a year and a half ago, I was coaching a lady that had just gone through and got her degree, and she really couldn't sell herself. So, unbeknownst to me, it was something similar to What's Your Strength. And I did say to her, just ask all your friends and relatives for 3 words that describe you. And the stuff that came back just made a huge difference to her. So these things. So they're being a bit shy, I must admit, on the Centaur. I'm just going to check to see if any more.
Oh, don't worry. Like I said, it's a very personal thing, and actually, it's just I'd love to think that some people have got some replies, and hope it makes them feel good. There's no pressure at all to share at all.
Well, they're going to come through the day as well, aren't they? So you're suddenly going to get something else, and it'd be like, oh, that's nice. And that's nice. So stick them in your Tadar book. I'm going to be using that now, definitely. Fantastic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
It's been brilliant. Loved that. Really did.
Have a lovely day.
We'll be getting you back on Ask the Coach. I think we've got you booked in there as well. But actually, this could be one of the daily workout sessions as well. Again, just getting people something positive to start their day. So tomorrow morning, I'm back on the daily workout. It's 2 years to the day since we started. So there you go.
What an achievement. Talking about reflecting back, what an achievement.
Wow. We'll have to add that one to it. I think it's number 507. So there we go. There's a Tadar for me as well, to keep that going and sharing that with the industry. Wonderful. Amazing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.